Hey everyone, we want to welcome you to another installment of the Simone Edwards Show. It is the first Saturday in March. Can you believe it? We are 3 months into the new year. And my God, it has been an eventful year. To my right, your left, we have Bogdan, known as Bogey. He is here, incredible. He has a program called I Serve. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But right now, we're going to get to know you just a little bit and jump off the deep end. So before we do that, I want you to pronounce your name for me. Bogdan?
Bogdan.
Bogdan?
Bogdan, yes.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
And your last name?
Matushinsky.
Matushinsky.
Matushinsky, yes.
Okay. And so Bogdan.
Bogdan.
Did I say it right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, very nice to meet you. We are so glad to have you here in studio.
Thanks for having me here, Simone.
Absolutely. So I'm reading through iServe and I'm reading through your bio. And I just want to ask, how many languages do you speak?
Well, fluently, 3 languages, but I also know the basics of a few others. So I fluently speak, of course, English,
Right.
Spanish, and Polish.
Wow.
Those were kind of my house languages. And then I speak the basics of Arabic, Russian, and Swahili.
Wow. Okay, so can you say, let's see.
So, for example, let's do some Arabic.
Okay.
So, Ahlan, Esmi, Bogdan,
Okay.
Ana min fi Medina, San Diego.
Okay, so your name is Bogdan and you live in San Diego.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Or,
Swahili.
Habarigani, Mzuri, Safsan. So it's the introduction. So for example, like in Swahili, in some of the culture where Swahili is spoken, a lot of people, when they greet each other, sometimes it'll be Hodi, Jambo, Habarigani, Mzuri. It's that interaction, but also that strength of the language and greeting from a distance, because
Okay.
you're also wanting to make your presence known so that you're not just surprising someone off guard. And it's a really interesting language that comes from a mix of cultures, influence from around the world, and in the region of East Africa, where there's a blend of cultures. So it's really unique and rich.
Wow. Okay, Russian.
Здравствуйте. Меня зовут Богдан. Как дела?
Okay, and so you said your name was Bogdan.
Yeah, so hello, my name is Bogdan.
Okay.
How are you?
Okay, how are you? That was the other part I was missing. Polish.
Polish. Dzień dobry, jak się masz? Mam na imię Bogdan Matuszyński i jestem bardzo zadowolony, żeby być tu dzisiaj z wami i żeby mieć tę możliwość rozmawiać z wami. So, hello everyone, my name is Bogdan Matuszyński. I'm very honored to be here this morning and have the opportunity to meet with you and speak with everyone.
Excellent, excellent. Spanish.
Hola, buenos días a todos. Me llamo Bogdan Matuszyński y es un honor para estar aquí con ustedes todos en esa habitación y también por el internet para hablar.
Love it. So you grew up interfacing with the 3 languages spoken in your
Yes.
household.
Yes.
At what point did you start to connect with Swahili and with Russian and with Farsi?
With Arabic, yeah.
Arabic.
That was later on in my life. So to give a little backstory with my initial languages, is my very first language I actually spoke at infancy to growing up was Polish.
Okay.
Because while my parents were working multiple jobs trying to raise me and support the family,
Right.
my grandparents actually traveled to the U.S. from Poland. They got their immigration status. They were able to come here, and they helped take care of me. Well, they only spoke Polish, so that was the influence around me. So Polish was my first official language, but then once I reached preschool, kindergarten, the English came naturally because of my surroundings.
Right.
And then also through family gatherings on my Mexican side of the family, then I was picking up the Spanish, using that. The unfortunate aspect of that, and part of what drives me to help people learn about languages and other cultures, though, is that I asked my parents later in life, why didn't we speak more in Polish or Spanish at home? And I learned, they told me, well, we didn't want you to be discriminated against. And I said, what do you mean? Oh, well, because at first some of our language abilities were a little rough, or when my father came to the United States, he didn't speak a word of English, just hello, my name is, very, very broken English.
Right.
People would actually judge him and think some people actually thought he had a disability because he couldn't speak English. Well,
Wow.
they didn't realize, oh, well, this man could be from another country who
Right.
immigrated here, and he wasn't getting jobs. He wasn't, even though he was learning his English ability, learning in his English abilities. Same with my mom. She said sometimes people judge her because she has an accent when she speaks English, more from her Spanish-speaking influences. So they said part of why they wanted me to focus on English more in the household was so that I wouldn't have an accent. And I've actually been told by some people that I have a little bit of an accent, but, you know, to each their own.
Right.
And part of what drives me to learn the other languages is not only to learn from other cultures, but you can learn a lot about people, where the language comes from, the tradition, the history, and it helps you connect. It helps build that bridge, build rapport, build trust.
Right.
Even simple things like saying hello in another language, and even if it's broken or you don't say the correct pronunciation, it's a beautiful thing when you can see people's eyes light up. When
Right.
they're, wait a minute. What did you say? We didn't expect you to say that. So
I find it really interesting that in non-English speaking countries, when people, like you said, make the attempt to learn and to build a bridge or to extend an olive branch, that it's so welcomed and you can see people's faces light up like, oh my God, you know, even if you don't know the entire language or you can't speak fluently, you know something, and that is so amazing. But on the flip side, a lot of times in English speaking countries, when people attempt to speak English, we don't have that welcoming, oh my gosh, you're learning the language. It is more of like, oh, what is wrong with you that you don't know how to speak like I speak? Yeah.
yeah, and based off what you're saying, I find it sometimes still unfortunate that even being here in San Diego, California, we're in a binational region, a mega region, where we have so many opportunities. And I was telling someone about how I recently went to the Tijuana International Airport to take a flight, and because now they have the cross-border expressway where it's a bridge where you can actually walk across from the U.S. side, park your vehicle, walk across, and be immediately in the Mexican airport. And the person, out of all the questions they could ask me, oh, well, did they speak English? And I said, well, some of the people do speak English, but we are in Mexico, so the language of the country, the main dominant language is Spanish.
Right.
And I said, well, do we necessarily speak 100 different languages to address the needs of our clients here on U.S. flights? And they kind of were like, well, you know, we're in the U.S. And that whole conversation about what is our national language and things like that came up.
Right.
And that's a whole conversation in itself. But I think it's important to see how language can be used in personal interactions as well as in your careers, your personal interests, travel, leisure. So it's definitely an opportunity, and it will open doors.
Absolutely. And it builds bridges.
Yeah.
And it removes stereotypes and labels and really forces us to see the other person as a human being. Like, you're a human being just like me. Your language may be different, but really, if you cut the both of us, regardless of skin color, nationality, ethnicity, gender, we're going to bleed the same blood. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. So my last question for you is, so your language center was really well developed because of your interaction with these three languages. So at what point did you start learning Arabic? What age were you when you started learning the other languages?
So the Arabic, when I was back in, I want to say about 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 20 years old, and then the Swahili was right around the same time, 21. Yeah, and those were for different reasons. The Swahili actually came by chance.
Okay.
Because I was working with a local instructor who was helping me coordinate with someone to learn the Arabic with private tutoring sessions to supplement my academic education in Arabic. And he said, well, wait a minute, you're interested in languages. I'm a Swahili instructor. Why don't I also teach you Swahili? And I said, wow, that's interesting, because at the time, my wife and I were actually planning to potentially go to Kenya. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah, and unfortunately things changed at that time, but we're actually planning a potential trip at the end of this year to do a road trip through East Africa.
Oh, that is fabulous. So is your wife multilingual as well?
Her main language is English. She does know some Spanish.
Okay.
She also used to be more conversational in German. So she
Wow.
also appreciates, and that's part of her heritage. So for her, it was also important to get to know her own self, to learn some of the language and appreciate that, to learn more about her family history and traditions.
That is so cool.
So-
That's so unbelievably cool. Okay, we are going to take a break for station identification. When we return, we'll be back in studio with Bogdan, also known as Bogey. Just a moment.
You are listening to the San Diego station of inspiration. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. KTAV Radio. For more information on how you can advertise your business, event, or services, please visit us online at ktav.tv or call 619-246-6131. We are also offering 30 and 60-minute time slots for your ministry or podcast. For more information on how you can become a part of KTAV Station of Inspiration lineup, please call 619-246-6131 or visit us online at ktav.tv/ministry.
Everyone, we are back in studio with Bogdan, also known as Bogey. So, my Bogdan.
Bogdan.
Yes, I'm gonna get it, you guys. Bogdan. So, how did Bogey come about?
How did I come about? That's a great question. Ooh, how much time do you have now? So, I was born here in San Diego, California, born and raised. My father, he immigrated here as a political asylum refugee from
Wow.
Poland when it was under Soviet control.
Right.
So he came here in 1985. But prefacing that, he actually had to defect, and he was staying in a refugee camp for 6 months while waiting to get his status through the United Nations
Right.
to be allowed to come here. And then, of course, my mother, she grew up not too far away in Mexicali,
Okay.
Baja California, which is about a 2-hour drive from here.
Right.
And then her family, as she grew older, they decided to move to El Centro, California, in the Imperial Valley.
Okay.
And once she was in her 20s, she decided that she wanted a new adventure, and she was interested in teaching. So she moved out to San Diego, California, to pursue her teaching passion. And that was around the time that my father immigrated here, and they were both, as part-time jobs, working at the Coronado Navy base at the galley, the restaurant area.
Oh my God.
And my mother had she had a brief injury, I believe, to her arm at the time, so she had taken a few weeks off of work to heal because it was a very labor-intensive job. And my father just started working there, and when she came back, she was like, "Hey, who's this new guy?" And just started speaking with him. He barely knew a few words of English.
Right.
She spoke English, of course, and Spanish, and one thing led to another. They met, sparks flew, and that's how
Wow.
that started with my parents meeting and establishing themselves here in San Diego, California.
That is the ultimate love story. I love a good love story. That is awesome. So, in the Venn diagram of your life, right? So we've got Polish and we've got Mexican, and this overlap in the overlap. Let's talk about the overlap. How do these identities all blend together to create the person that I see sitting in front of me right now?
Thanks for that question. So there is a lot of overlap in the sense of identity, where in each sphere that I'm in, whether it's professional, pleasure, traveling around, learning about new opportunities, I not only take my own experiences, family experiences, interpersonal experiences, and seeing how rich they were, fun, filled, conversations in different languages. Also, I joke sometimes that I use Spanglish, the interplay of the Spanish language with English.
Right.
And it's very unique to have that opportunity, because there are there's more opportunities than difficulties, but there also are difficulties that arise with it. For example, I've been told before that oh, well, you don't seem Mexican enough, or you don't seem Polish enough, or
Right.
you don't seem American enough. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. On what scale are you
Right.
measuring that? You know, I
Right.
didn't know there was a check-off sheet. So instead, I see it as an opportunity rather than to lash out or maybe get emotionally disturbed by that, because some people might respond that way.
Right.
I see it as an opportunity to bridge that gap, to say, well, help me understand what you mean by that, or why you see it that way.
Right.
And a lot of the times, I feel that you can resolve those situations by genuinely hearing that person out. It
Right.
doesn't mean you have to agree with them.
Right.
Not at all. But
Right.
acknowledging that they said something that was very profound maybe could be offensive. I don't take offense to it anymore, because I think part of it is my life's mission to educate people about different cultures, different languages, opportunities, and how to overcome that fear that they might have. And again, with the opportunities, there's also the opportunity to travel. I mean,
Right.
because I have my language skills, I'm able to travel. Look at how many Spanish-speaking countries there are in the world.
Right.
Last year I was just working in Spain for 11 months.
Wow.
And it was amazing to be able to go there, but also recognizing that my Spanish had more of a Mexican cultural influence on my Spanish, because I don't know if you're familiar, there's different dialects and
Yes.
regional, and then there's the Castellano Spanish in Spain,
Yeah.
which a lot of different dialectical differences, and even people were asking me, oh, well, you're speaking they would say the Mexican Spanish. So recognizing those differences as well, and understanding how that even came to be.
Right.
Because even when I traveled to Poland, my family's from the south, and that's the Polish that's spoken there is thought of as more the not so formal and fancy Polish,
Right.
versus more in the mid-center of mid-east of Poland, where the capital is. That's more the formal hoity-toity, so to speak,
Right.
Polish version. So there's kind of that joking clashing of differences, but at the same time, it's what makes us special in that region, and why people like coming to southern Poland, because we're known for the mountains, as well as the busy cities, the history as well, the positive and negative, unfortunately, and having that influence of the Polish, Mexican, American influence. I mean, I'm proud to be born in the United States. I'm proud to be an American. I love my country. I love this country, but I also love maintaining my cultural heritage and sharing that with people, whether it's through food diplomacy,
Right.
language diplomacy, interaction, also encouraging people to learn about their own identity.
Right.
Because until we know about ourselves, can we truly move forward to the best of our ability? Because we don't know that passion and strength and opportunity we have inside of us without knowing ourselves. I mean, where do we come from? Where does my grandfather come from? Where does my great-grandfather come from? And even if, because I can only trace my ancestry so far back, there's so many questions. I mean,
Right.
even out of curiosity, I've taken the DNA test.
Right.
Yeah, one of those swab tests, and it revealed a lot of interesting things, because the only data I gave them was my name, my address, a payment, and sent them my saliva swab, and it was dead on accurate. It showed a map where my family's from, southern region of Poland, specifically almost to the T of where the city region is,
Wow.
as well as it showed tracing on a map my family, where my family was mainly dominating in the northern Mexican region near Mexicali.
Wow.
And it was very interesting to see that.
That is really powerful. Yeah, the DNA testing is, in that aspect, is something that is on my list of things to do. You brought something out that really emphasizes one of the things that your mission is about, which is showing us our similarities rather than highlighting our differences. And I find it interesting that even in other countries, we have, and I'm going to use the American way to describe it. So here we have what we consider the proper way of speaking, and then we have Ebonics, right? You have that in every culture. In whether you go to Spanish-speaking countries, African countries, European countries, there's this, here's this way of speaking, here's a way that's proper and acceptable by society, and then here's where the broken English may come in, or here's where the less formal Polish may come in, or the less formal Spanish may come in. And so this whole sense of a divide between classes, for lack of a better word, exists.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, it exists throughout. It is not just germane to American or English-speaking countries. It exists throughout. And if we can really see that that divide is there throughout, it really helps to bridge the commonalities. Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's great you brought that up, because even I was at a peace conference on the Northern Ireland peace process last week, actually in Irvine, California.
Right.
And they brought in different leaders who were involved in the peace process, faith leaders, community leaders, as well as those who had been around the political influence sphere. And one of the controversies now actually that's happening is regarding the Irish language. There's some people who want this to be something in their educational system that's a symbolic strength of pride, as well as education and the culture to continue it, whereas others are fearful of having the Irish language as part of the academic system due to outside influences. I don't want to expand on that too much, because it could get political, but just understanding how language, even in an education system, which ones you allow or don't allow, how that can create tension in communities, as well as what are the opportunities then if the government, the education system, those formal institutions have to do something a certain way, then what are the opportunities as community leaders or faith leaders, civic leaders, or those government entities, the employees in their own time, how can they make the difference then? Because some people in the capacity of their employment are limited due to certain restrictions in an official capacity. So how can they make that change they want to see in the world on their off time and work together and form those relationships? And
that's really good.
So.
And it really begins with acknowledging the fact that if we choose the more formal, that there is a group that will be disenfranchised. And how do we bring that group in, the group that feels disenfranchised, without making them feel as though they are an anomaly or the odd person out? And acknowledging the fact that, yes, this is what we have chosen as a norm, but that doesn't dismiss what you bring to the table and who you are as a person. I absolutely love it. I'm so fascinated. So you were selected at one point to be a part of the Olive Tree Initiative. So what is that? And then how did you get involved with it? Where did you go? And how did it impact you?
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about that. It definitely was a powerful moment, not only in my life, but also in my wife's life. We both got to travel together as a part of that organization's mission. So the Olive Tree Initiative is a student-led organization that focuses on nonpartisan, they don't side with a specific side, but it's education about the Arab-Israeli conflict. And I learned about this organization through a friend who came in to speak at one of my university classes, and he had given us a brief introduction to it, what he had learned from it, and I just thought, wow, what an interesting opportunity. I'm studying international security and conflict resolution at San Diego State University, as well as I was studying Islamic and Arabic studies and Latin American studies, two different regions that I was interested in. And although I don't identify myself as a direct stakeholder of being involved, let's say, in that direct region or as part of the Arab-Israeli conflict, it was something that at the time I got involved in 2012, early 2012, and at the time seeing it in the news so much negativity, so much curiosity, but then I thought to myself, there's so much media around the Arab-Israeli conflict, so much media around the Middle East, but how many people do I know or even myself can actually say we know something about what's actually happening there.
Right.
And I thought what this organization was doing was great because they weren't taking sides, they weren't pushing an agenda
Right.
that you have to believe this or believe that. Instead, they tried to curate the best possible educational materials from different sources, government, academic, non-governmental organization materials, so that we could have a curriculum as students at this club at San Diego State University and other universities. Now they're actually expanded internationally, where we can learn about this conflict with the safety of knowing that no one's trying to necessarily lead us down a path with a certain agenda. And what I liked was that I was able to go from really not knowing anything about the region or the conflict to understanding that not only do I know the history and context of what's happening, I know who are the key players. I know the geographic region. I'm now studying one of the languages that are dominant in the region, and I actually have the opportunity to go. So what the Olive Tree Initiative believes in is experiential education.
I love it.
So it's not just reading from a book,
Right.
looking at maps,
Right.
and daydreaming. What if I could actually speak to someone who's involved?
Right.
It inspired me actually to not only want to go to the region, but they organize actual trips to the region to meet with policymakers, stakeholders, people who have been victims of the conflict, people who are currently engaged in it, civic leaders, faith leaders, reporters. So also people in the U.S. who are involved. For example, we, as part of the 3-week trip that I was selected to go on, because I had been committed to the organization, I had become a student leader. I was nominated by my peers to be one of the leaders in the organization. I had shown my commitment to service. I then had to apply formally, and I received a grant not only from the Olive Tree Initiative, but the Charles Hosler Institute on World Affairs, which the late Charles Hosler, who was a former U.S. ambassador to Bahrain, he established, as well as his wife, Chin Yi. They also offered a grant that helped me in my stipend to travel to do research in the Middle East for 3 weeks. I traveled to Israel, Palestine, and Jordan.
Wow.
As well as before that, we went to Washington, D.C., where we got to meet with the National Security Council. We got to meet with people from different, NGOs, from different government agencies, from
What's
the
an
media.
NGO?
Non-governmental organization.
Okay.
It's a common acronym used outside of the United States. Sometimes we might think of nonprofits. These are a form of non-governmental
Got it.
organization.
Okay.
And then after that, we began our trip, then flying to the United Nations in New York, where we met with some of their policy experts to learn what the United Nations is doing in regard to this situation. And then we flew immediately to Israel, and then we traveled to the West Bank, Palestine, and we began our journey the first day, landing in Israel, staying the night in Bethlehem,
Wow.
and then hitting the ground, where it was very impactful to meet, just, it stirs up so many good memories,
Yeah.
but also learning about the conflict and then going there.
Right. It's two different things.
Yeah. And that's part of what drives me to share those experiences, whether it's through photos, through events, where I can speak about it, now say I'm somewhat of a subject matter expert on it, but also acknowledging that there's people who are still going through this situation, this conflict. This is a real thing. This is not just
This is not Hollywood.
It's not Hollywood. It's not a headline.
Right.
People are dying. People are being injured. However you may politically view the conflict and what are the solutions, this is something that I got a chance to live, breathe, feel, cry with people,
Wow.
and travel the region and meet with key influencers to see how I can be part of the change. And as soon as I came back to San Diego, I realized, okay, what are you going to do? I asked myself, how are you going to step up? And I like to think of opportunities on a local level and an international level. And so I immediately reached out to different organizations, seeing where my skill sets could be involved. And I was allowed to get an internship through the American Red Cross here in San Diego through the Services to Armed Forces branch, where I was a case manager for their team that specifically worked with military service members and their families. And I would offer referral services, grief assistance, emotional relief, things like that, because they were going through difficult times. Either a service member was killed, one of their family members was ill or dying, maybe they had a home crisis, and they would call into the crisis center of the American Red Cross, and then we would relay the messages as well as start connecting them to the resources to get them home as quickly as possible. They could be deployed in Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, wherever our military service men and women are deployed around the world. So that's just one example of how then engaging, doing research abroad inspired me then to take local action here in San Diego that was affecting internationally. I mean, our men and women are serving all over the country, but we often forget they have their families back at home who need help, and how can we intervene? And that got me interested more in how to help people in emotionally traumatic situations. So that's something that I think is not acknowledged enough, that we work so much on keeping our bodies healthy, our physique. We want to do our New Year's resolution, work out, hit the gym, but oftentimes we don't look from the shoulders up.
That's really good.
We don't do a self-care analysis. We don't check in with our spouses. It's almost, at least in my opinion, it almost becomes shameful to talk about it, that maybe I'm going through an emotional struggle, maybe something I saw at my work or something someone told me just really frustrated me, and now maybe that person is feeling shame or trying to do something else, substance abuse. There's so many things that I think we could do by having these mental health check-ins with each other, seeing also how we can help our peers. So
that is really awesome. It sounds like your experience with the Olive Tree Initiative not only broadened your horizons, but it really was the catalyst for a lot of the work that you're doing now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it definitely inspired me, because I just thought, okay, there's so many people doing great things. How am I going to create change? How am I going to move forward? And little by little, just with baby steps, it just takes picking up that phone or checking out that website of that organization you're interested in. In my more than half of success, 80% of success is just showing up.
Right. Love it.
And just go out and do it.
Love it. All right, you guys, we will be back in just a moment. When we get back, we're going to tap into iServe, what it is, what iServe is doing nationally and internationally. We'll be back in just a moment.
You are listening to the San Diego station of inspiration. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. KTAV Radio. For more information on how you can advertise your business, event, or services, please visit us online at ktav.tv or call 619-246-6131. We are also offering 30 and 60-minute time slots for your ministry or podcast. For more information on how you can become a part of KTAV's Station of Inspiration lineup, please call 619-246-6131 or visit us online at ktav.tv/ministry.
Okay, we are back here in studio with Bogdan. Last name? Matushinsky. And we're going to talk about what is iServe? That is an organization that you are the founder of.
Yes.
So what is it, and what need did you want to fill when you created iServe?
Okay, so what is iServe? iServe is an organization that is internationally focused on opportunities for you or your organization to empower themselves through different resources that will work to help you bring together, whether that's in your personal and professional development. Maybe you're a little lost in which direction you want to take in your career. For example, I've gone through different career transitions where I needed some direction and guidance. So we can help you in that area. but not just on a local level, but on an international level. Where are the opportunities? Because our world is so connected now that if you're not going global, you're behind already.
Right.
I mean, like I said before, we're in a binational mega region. That's one opportunity. We've got Canada up north. I get on the internet, I can be speaking to someone in China in 2 seconds.
Right.
I have friends in Europe, the Middle East, African countries, and there's so many opportunities. And through iServe, we also offer not only the professional development training, business development training, but also seeing how you can make a social impact through your business. Oftentimes, there's this stereotype with business, the greedy corporations or those who are taking advantage of the workers, things like that. Well, we're trying to also promote different corporate social responsibility programs to engage with their communities, how they can not only increase their efficiency and profits, but also making sure that they're giving back, or through social enterprise education training. There's this whole new shift in thinking about business through social enterprises, social entrepreneurship, and that's where you're creating a sustainable business, but as a part of its mission and its core operating process, you need to be giving back to the community. And I'm not talking about just writing a check and handing in a donation, but it's how the processes of your business actually are. For example, let's say if we have some disadvantaged individuals in your community who can't get a job, helping them understand why can't those people get a job? Is there some way that maybe you could hire them within your organization because they have a certain skill set? In addition, with iServe, another gap we fill is the education inequality. That was something I experienced firsthand, where I was falling in this gap where my family didn't have enough money that I could go maybe to these prestigious top schools, but my family was making enough money that I didn't qualify for certain scholarships. So how is that I'm almost like, wait a minute, all my life I'm taught, go to school, get a good education, it's going to work out. But it doesn't always work that way because there's still laws, regulations. Every institution has their different policies. So I was trying to find a way to bridge that gap where people can learn about more cost-effective opportunities on how to not only become a thought leader and influencer yourself in a certain field that you're interested in, because I think you have to find your direction first on your life journey, but then how you can actually make that impact you want. So whether you're a business, a nonprofit organization, a government entity, the individual yourself, I want to help people find their true purpose, help lead them on their path, but show that it's not just local, it's global. And there's that interplay also from global to local, local to global. So.
Wow. So I was looking through your website, and one of the ways that you guys work towards creating effective thought leaders is you actually, and I think this is so incredibly brilliant, that you all not only teach languages, but you also teach the culture. And so talk to us some more about that. And I know that there were 6 languages that were listed on the website. I believe it was, there's Farsi, there's Arabic,
Spanish,
Chinese.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Russian.
So talk to us about that, and why those 6 languages specifically.
Okay, so those language for now were part of the programming choices because those I was working with on different collaborative projects, and myself thought that those are critical languages that right now, at least in the United States, we have a deficit of speakers who actually know anything about those languages, who don't have actually a native speaking ability, and they don't know anything about the culture that is behind those languages.
Right.
And oftentimes, whether it's business, military, security services, interpersonal relationships, we have a lot of stereotypes, a lot of judgments.
Right.
But again, it's all about the opportunities, how to grow, how to learn from other people. Maybe things are because of a cultural philosophy or belief in one region of the world. Maybe you could actually increase your business revenue by over 150% because you're realizing that your marketing to that region is not meeting their cultural needs. For example, I won't name names because it's a big organization, but there was an organization that had a push in China on home remodeling products, and they didn't do their marketing right to meet the cultural needs. And they were actually losing revenue. Why? Because they didn't study the culture of how in China people view home remodeling projects.
Right.
You would think, okay, culture, home remodeling, it's, how is that even related? But
Right.
think about it. If you yourself go to a store, there needs to be certain branding, marketing around that to meet your identification, right?
Right.
If even the color could mean something symbolic.
Right.
In some cultures, red is a color of passion, of progress, power. Red in some cultures, it's a negative culture. It's or
Right.
negative symbol, sorry. And if you don't know those kind of things and you're trying to work with someone who identifies that way, you could offend them, you could lose their trust.
Right.
And again, learning about someone's culture, where they come from, the language interchange, that's powerful. Even my wife was telling me when she was in France last year, she doesn't speak much French. She learned a few phrases, but it was out of respect. So she could say, hello, excuse me, my name is, could you please help me find this?
Right.
And even though it was very broken French, she tried, and people said, oh, wow, we appreciate that. Not many tourists try to
Right.
learn our language. And it was funny because then she said they would speak perfect English to help try to accommodate her needs.
Right.
But to the tourists who weren't at least trying, they would just...
Right. But that really does, and it goes again to discovering the similarities and bridging the gap. It's if you are going to someone else's home, there's a way that you conduct yourself. It's like if I have friends where you can walk into their home and keep your shoes on and move about. There are other people that are like, no, take your shoes off. I don't want shoes in my house. Let me offer you. There are people who are like, no, come to my refrigerator. My house is your house. Do whatever you need to. It's the same. It's the same thing with traveling to another country. If you decide to go to another country and you want to have the most positive experience possible, it would behoove you to learn more about that culture so that you can have that experience. Because again, if someone sees you making an attempt to know who they are, then they're more apt to be receptive.
Yeah, and it's not about being perfect or...
Right.
It's understood that, well, you would hope it's understood, but most people I've learned, they get it. It might be partially, let's say if you're traveling to a new country, there's going to be culture shock. There's going to be even the food. I mean, food is such a powerful thing to people. Think about it. What were the type of foods you had growing up? What are the foods that make you feel better when you're feeling down? Food is so powerful how it can change our mentality, also our physical bodies. But then now think about it. When you go to a foreign place that's foreign to you and you're trying different foods, maybe you don't like any of them. I mean, I've had many foods I love, and I've had many foods that I don't like so much. But also, trying different foods could be a sign of respect, as well as not trying them could be a sign of disrespect.
Right.
Because it's like, wait a minute, my family, let's say, I've had experiences where I was just so humbled. There was a family who, when I was traveling to Vietnam, they didn't have a lot of money, and they invited me to come have a meal with them. They prepared. I tried to pay for that meal because it was at one of their family members' restaurants, and they refused my money. And I knew that they were not that well off, but I was the stranger they had just met 30 minutes ago, invited me for a meal, and I just thought, wow, these people put their heart into this meal for me, a stranger.
Right.
And even though it was something that when I saw it, though, I was a little like, this isn't my cup of tea, so to speak, I at least gave it a shot to try. And, I probably won't be having that same meal again, but it was that interaction with the food diplomacy I keep bringing up, because food is very powerful.
Right. So now the youth that you work with through iServe, we're going to tap into that in just a moment. Sure. We are about a minute over our time. So when we come back, we're going to talk about young people and their service in iServe, and then how you can possibly get your young person involved. We'll be back in just a moment.
You are listening to the San Diego station of inspiration. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. KTAV Radio. For more information on how you can advertise your business, event, or services, please visit us online at ktav.tv or call 619-246-6131. We are also offering 30 and 60-minute time slots for your ministry or podcast. For more information on how you can become a part of KTAV's Station of Inspiration lineup, please call 619-246-6131 or visit us online at ktav.tv/ministry.
We are back here in studio with Bogdan
Matushinsky.
And we're discussing iServe. So let's talk specifically about young people and their involvement. So for parents who are listening now and those who will listen in the days ahead, how can they get, if they're like, you know what, I really want my child to learn another language and not just learn the language in the formal school setting, but really learn about the culture. And so that they can become better global citizens, because we are becoming a global community. Whether people want to admit it or not, you can stay in your bubble, but we are becoming a global community. And so to make our children more viable for in the years to come, how does someone connect with you if they want to get involved in iServe?
So the easiest way to connect is if you check out our website. It's www.iserveinternational.com. That's www.iserveinternational.com, all one word. And that's where you can first learn about our mission, our services, and see some of the impact we've had and why it's important. And I appreciate this question because for those who are listening, whether you're a parent, a student, a business owner, work for a nonprofit or government entity, think about this. Think about if you could increase your revenues by 200% just because you knew how to form better relationships with people, or learn about someone's culture that made you build rapport with one of your clients. Parents, think about this. What if your student was empowering themselves by taking the time to learn another language, learn about a culture, as well as they could be on a flight to Argentina tomorrow to learn about how to promote environmentally sustainable programs, and they could be winning fellowships, scholarships, they could get jobs and make themselves globally marketable. Think about the power of not just being able to get a job or volunteer or work here in San Diego, which San Diego has many international opportunities as well, but again, on a global scale, that's going to make you so much more marketable. Another way you can get in touch with me is by checking out LinkedIn and checking out the iServe community profile there, and then we can connect. And then the age group I've mainly worked with are either elementary school, high school, college, or recent graduates. But I also work on custom package services for those who are adults or in career transition. Like I said before, I've gone through different career transitions myself, and it's important to look for those opportunities where you can find the gap between your skill set, where maybe you're not as strong, how to build some of those strengths, but then again, see what economic sector you want to work in, whether it's education, nonprofit, government. Or I had a mentor inspire me once and say, well, if you're not finding the career or job that you're looking for, why don't you create your own position? I thought that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So we'll help you learn how to create your own position as well. To take what's in here in your heart, the knowledge up here, combine it, that interplay, and now make yourself open to the universe about where are the opportunities there, and move forward.
That is incredible. That is awesome. So let's scale back just a little bit. So you have somebody who is junior high, and they're like, I really want to be involved in iServe. Walk us through the process. What does that look like once someone, and let's deal specifically with youth. Someone reaches out to you and they're like, I want my kid to be involved in this. I want them to be I want them to have an edge for because we're a global community. I want my child to have a stake in what's going on in the world, and they enroll in iLearn. Walk us through the process. What does that look like?
So the process would be that, again, you get into contact with our organization or with me directly. We'll either sit down or have a quick call to do a needs assessment, because it's important to see what your interests and needs are for yourself as an adult or your child as a student. And then we'll look for the opportunities that we can get you moving along. Also, maybe the needs that you have right now are not something that I can help with, so I'd be more than happy to refer you to an organization or educational center that can meet your needs right now, because time is of the essence. If you don't take advantage of those opportunities, that's one more day you've lost. So going back to that, if, for example, I meet the needs of someone who, let's say they want to learn about how to get more involved in the San Diego community or learn more about, let's say, the community in Mexico, right? So then I can now create a custom educational plan, because I think it's important. What a lot of organizations lack is they don't customize to the needs of those they're serving.
Right.
And ultimately, the whole emphasis of iServe is service to others. Service to others. And if I'm not serving you and your specific needs, then I'm not really doing you a favor at all. If I'm just throwing out this bulk cookie cutter package, and I'm saying what's good for you is good for him and good for her, and it's all the same, it doesn't matter, then I'm not really addressing your needs and getting you from point A to point B. So it's that needs assessment, then analyzing where you can also find assistance in the community, whether that's through a diplomacy program, whether that's through a school, through a business, connecting you with leaders, mentors. I've connected many people to different heads of organizations that later led to them getting jobs, as well as helping them, for example, if they're working on getting into a university. Well, universities want to know about you, so I can help that student learn about how to tell their story, how to guide someone who's reading about them through their journey that shows that they're on a powerful journey to create impact and also serve others. So there's different ways that we can meet the needs of your student or that person who could be in transition, trying to find a way to better themselves, be a global citizen, become educated, as well as learn how to take the next step. But again, as I said before, 80% of success is showing up.
Right.
And unfortunately, what I've seen in the past is people can get overwhelmed. It is scary, and I acknowledge that. At one point, I had I call it my low and high point in life, where I was in an engineering program to study engineering, working on ships. This was up in the Bay Area. And I had many different life factors affect me, where I actually had to end up dropping out of school mid-semester. And I found out that wasn't my purpose. That wasn't what was supposed to be part of my life's journey. And letting that go was one of the scariest things I ever did, but it was one of the best things, because that was, again, one of the catalysts in my life that led me to where I am today, helping people realize that they don't have to feel lost, they don't have to feel scared. I'm going to go on that journey with you together, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy, helping be there side by side with someone on their journey. It's not about just, oh yeah, here's the cookie cutter package, pay me this amount of money and go on your way. No, I'm going to be there with you.
Right.
I'm going to make sure you get to where you want to be, but you're going to have to invest your time, commitment. It's a commitment.
Right.
What I do helping people is not for everyone. I've had people also withdraw and say, it's a little intense. It is. It is.
Right.
But how bad do you want it?
Right.
How bad do you want your life to change for the better, where you can provide for your family, provide for yourself, feel whole and fulfilled? How bad do you want it?
I love it.
So.
I absolutely love it. So as we're about 4 minutes away from the top of the hour. My last question for you is going to be this. If it were possible for you to meet your 16-year-old self and your 65-year-old self, what would your 16-year-old self say to you? What do you think 16-year-old Bogey would say, meeting 30-year-old Bogey, and your experiences and what you've done thus far?
Going back to my 16-year-old self, I know he was a very shy and quiet person, lacking a lot of direction. Had a lot of gifts, but didn't know quite how to use that. And speaking to my 30-year-old self now, I think he'd be very proud where he's gotten to, and started realizing that there are opportunities to be the difference that you want to see, and really being a leader and being in the struggle, overcoming, working together with people, moving towards my 65-year-old self. I'm hoping he's going to be a very wise person.
Right.
And having that exchange with my 65-year-old self, I think he'll be happy that knowing that the journey might have been tough, but it was all worth it at the end of the day. Because even just lighting up the room with a smile, cheering someone up by giving them a hug, knowing how to interact with people, continuing to travel, share stories, memories, that's powerful. So I think my 65-year-old self will keep telling me now to keep up the good work, keep up the fight. The end is going to be worth it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. We have come to the end of the road. If you want to connect yourself or your young people to iServe, go to www.iserveinternational.com. Check out their website and what they have to offer. We will see you next week here on the Simone Edwards Show. Have a fabulous rest of your Saturday. For those of you in San Diego, it's raining. Enjoy the rain. Even if you go to the beach to enjoy the rain and have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. We'll see you next week. Bye.
You are listening to the San Diego station of inspiration. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. KTAV Radio. For more information on how you can advertise your business, event, or services, please visit us online at KTAV.tv or call 619-246-6131. We are also offering 30 and 60-minute time slots for your ministry or podcast. For more information on how you can become a part of KTAV Station of Inspiration lineup, please call 619-246-6131 or visit us online at ktav.tv/ministry.